This is an interview that I did with David Grier about his friendship with Clarence White. David Grier is the best flat picker on the face of the earth, and you should go out of your way to find out more about him and buy his records. We did this interview at my kitchen table in East Nashville, and I enjoyed it very much and hope you will too. Here's David Grier sharing personal stories about Clarence White.
Well, for Dad, there were three people in my household that were like gods. There was Bill Monroe, there was Earl Scruggs, and there was Clarence White. There was the three of them. So Dad had live tapes of all of those guys and records of all those guys. And so I heard it all the time. I was always hearing these live recordings of the Kentucky Colonels, which was Roland and Clarence White, among others. And because Dad revered them so much, he talked about them, a lot. And that's where I first got to know of Clarence. And so when I began playing guitar, I ended up trying to copy some of the things he did because I thought they were cool myself. So it was like osmosis. It was just in the background of my life and was pointed out because Dad would point things out. Dad has a reel-to-reel tape. All these live shows are on reel-to-reel tapes that he made. There's one he was playing one time when I was maybe a teenager. It's him playing with Roland and Clarence. And there's this little baby screaming, "Gee, Dad, who's that?" "That's you." It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Didn't know. I was a little baby, and there's a picture, a famous picture, famous to me anyway.
It's an amazing picture
Of Clarence walking with his guitar, which is a Mark WHITEBOOK guitar, which is a handmade guitar back in the 70s, early 70s. 73 is when this picture was. Anyway, and a Pabst Blue Ribbon beer in his hand. Now, my father's standing behind them. I'm standing next to him, and there's this guy passed out, laying up against a tree. And we're walking from up to where the cars were down to where the stage was, because Clarence was getting ready to play shortly. And he's making his way to the stage. And, of course, I'm following him around, and Dad's following him. I'm following Dad and Clarence, and Dad's following Clarence. So that's when I first met him.
What festival was this?
It was called the Indian Springs Bluegrass Festival. It was in a place called Indian Springs, Maryland, which is Western Maryland. And I've been there a couple times since driving by. It's like, I bet I can find this place. And I found it. Now it's a KOA campground.
In the photo, there's the guy passed out, I guess, drunk right there.
Yeah, that's my guess too. Bluegrass festivals back then, I guess, maybe a little bit of pot and a lot of alcohol. Everybody had a beer, seemed like, and some folks had more than one. And this guy might have been one of those. He looks like he had a little cooler next to him. Might have been filled up with Kool-Aid and grain alcohol, for all I know. Who knows? It might have been filled with water. Maybe he was just sleeping. But, it's a cool picture. And this Japanese feller took another picture at that same festival when Roland and Clarence and the Kentucky Colonels were on stage. And I remember, and I didn't think I'd ever see this, but I have it. He sent me a picture where I'm sitting on the side of the stage right behind Clarence off to the side. It's so cool. It's like, oh, man, I remember that. And there it is. Yeah, so I have two pictures from that festival. That was 73. He had two there for a while. He had an old D28 and he had a D18. Now, the 28, Tony Rice now owns. So that's the guitar Tony plays. And Clarence was his big idol because Clarence was a little older than Tony. So Tony was a wee little kid and Clarence was a teenager maybe. And so Clarence was more proficient. And Tony was still playing guitar but learning as a child. And so he looked up to Clarence, and everybody in California knew Clarence was like the guy, even as a teenager. So Tony hunted that guitar down and found it and bought it. Clarence traded it to some guy at a liquor store owner. I guess he needed cash, and the guy gave him $500, and Clarence gave him the guitar as collateral. And then when Clarence got money, the guy wouldn't give him his guitar back. So Tony found out the guy's name and just started calling people in the phone book. And he found the guy. And he took tons of money, thousands and thousands of dollars. And the guy said, I'll take, X amount, 1,500 or whatever. I don't know. He said, yeah, let me go to the bank. And he went around the corner and only took that much out of his pocket, so he'd whip out, and gave it to the guy and got the guitar and had work done to it and all that. But the D18 he had, that Clarence had, got stolen. And I don't think anyone knows where that guitar is. No one knows where that guitar is. He used the D18 for leads and the D28 mostly for rhythm. Is how he liked them.
Are most of the recordings of him using those guitars?
Those two, yeah. And then the last recording, the Live in Sweden that came out, that's killer because he's older and it's more, well, it's just better. He's older. All the ideas are more solidified in his mind and they come out so cool. Syncopation's like crazy when he's singing. So good. Anyway, that was the Mark Whitebook guitar. So, Clarence, there was this big thing in Annapolis, Maryland, where Emmylou and Graham Parsons and the Byrds and different folks, Country Gazette was there. It was a festival. All these guys had records coming out on Warner Brothers, and it was like a package deal. And they played 2 gigs. They played one in Annapolis and one in Philadelphia. And I went to both those. Dad went, and so I went. And so they were staying in Annapolis, which for us was a half hour from the house. So we went to the hotel. We're hanging out. And Clarence and Tony Rice were jamming in a hotel room that had 2 beds. And I'm sitting in the middle of them on the floor like a tennis match, just head moving back and forth. Because I'd been playing, let's see, if I'm almost 12, I'd have been playing 6 or 7 years by then. So I knew a G chord, and here's these guys I've heard on record. And golly, who's this guy? Tony Rice. Golly, and I knew of Clarence. And I knew Roland because every time Roland came up the East Coast, he'd stop at the house and call. And he would pick. Yeah, it was way cool. That's the show where Graham told Clarence to turn down, if I'm remembering correctly. Clarence was in a rocking chair or something. There was a big argument because he did it on stage. And it's like, hey, man, I've been a country music star way longer than you've been breathing. So, I mean, I don't remember the exact words, but that was the gist of it. Well, Roland was friends of my dad, and Dad was at work. This is during the day. So he'd just come over if he had time off, on the road.
It sounds like really nice people.
Yeah, they were to me. Clarence was real nice. I was in that same hotel room. Roland was picking, and I didn't have my guitar. I said, you want to play? Yeah, hell yeah, absolutely. Well, here, let me get Clarence's guitar. Whoa. So he brings Clarence's guitar. Now, this is one of those hotel rooms that has a door on the inside. You know what I mean? Not just that leads outside, but can lead to the room next to it. Clarence and my father are talking in, I guess, what is Clarence's room. Roland and I are picking in Roland's room. Now, the door's open. You can hear. I couldn't hear the conversation, but they could hear us picking. So I'm playing, and we're playing, and first thing I noticed, this guitar plays itself. It was medium gauge strings, low action. It was butter. My guitar was Dad's old 55 D18 Mapes strings or black diamond strings and action like a dobro. So, which was fine. Either you want to play or you don't. Here's a guitar. You want to play it or not? Well, yeah, I want to play. So, you play it. Not like now where people, I have to have the perfect, most expensive capo and, what a bunch of shit that is. But, so, yeah, Clarence's guitar played itself. So we're playing and I'm digging it. It's like this guitar, I could do anything. Not really, but it felt that way, And so I'm playing, and I'd just seen them at Indian Springs a week or two before, and they did this song, Dueling Banjos, right? And Roland and Clarence would trade, and one of them would take a solo, then the other one would do that trading bit and do the other solo. And Clarence did this lick in C on the C chord, And I remembered it. It was a scale. You know, you don't have to be a genius to go do, re, mi, right? So it came time for that, and I did that lick because I remembered it. And I did, you know, I didn't practice it. I just remembered it and played it. And he comes out of his room over to me and Roland, and he's standing by the TV, which was near the door that led to both rooms. He goes, "Where'd you hear that?" I was like, "Oh, shit, I done pissed him off. Shit, I don't hardly even know him. I'm playing his guitar now. He's, oh, God." I'm like almost, 11 and a half or 3/4, something like that. Here's this guitar god in my house. I heard you do it last week at Indian Springs. You did? Yeah, I did. Except I didn't sound that gruff. Yeah, I did. And he took the back of his hand and knocked, there was a plastic water pitcher and plastic cups sitting on top of the TV. That's just where it was. He took the back of his hand and wham, knocked these cups and a pitcher off and walked back in his room. It's like, oh, good Lord. Shit, not only have I made him angry, I'm sure I'm going to hear about this from Dad. So, but then everybody started laughing. It's like, oh, God, okay. So I kind of, everything was cool. It was a joke, except the joke was on me. But, yeah, he was cool. He was really nice. He told Dad, said, you need to get him one of those guitars. And Dad says, well, I don't know. I don't have money and this. I don't know. The guy says, I'll give you a guy's name, and I'll buy it and you can pay me back. Or you don't even have to. I'll just buy it and you can have it. Dad says, well, if you're going to do that, I'll just buy it myself. But if it means that much to you, So I got one of those guitars. And they're pretty cool guitars. There were only a certain number made, maybe 80. It's made by a guy named WHITEBOOK, and he had stopped making guitars because of some sort of wood dust, whatever wood he was using when he sanded it makes dust. It was getting in his lungs, and it was ill effects, and he was forced to stop. So he did, but I've heard he started making guitars again, maybe different wood.
Where does he live?
California, somewhere's out there, but
Are those old ones collectible these days?
yeah, they're expensive. Mine's in a vault underground in a secret location in the middle of Utah. Clarence told my father. Clarence told my father, who told me, Clarence said, my dad said, man, your lead playing is really good. Your guitar playing is really good, and that lead's really cool. Clarence says, the lead's all right. I guess it's okay. But I'd stack my rhythm up against anybody's. It's like, whoa. But man, that's a big swinging pair right there, man. It's just like, golly. And who's to argue? Clarence was playing in a band when he was a teenager. That Appalachian Swing record, which is still amazing, killer guitar playing, he did when he was a teenager. He was a teenager when they cut that. It's still the kick-ass record.
Anybody ever talk about the Byrds stuff?
I didn't learn about them till Dad bought all their records one day. It's like, what is this? I don't like this. Clarence. Oh. So I listened, that was it. No need to say anymore. I heard Clarence got audited. The IRS says, here, Mr. White, last year you made $4,000. This year you made over $100,000. How do you explain that? I joined a rock band. Okay, thank you. See you later. Isn't that amazing? Over $100,000 then. That's like $1 Brazilian. Well, shit, he's the best. It's infectious. When you hear him and when you listen to the record, you zone into this or you zone into that, or listen to the drums or listen to that bass line or listen to that melody or listen to how he played that. You just, every now and then you'll zone in on one guy. For me, you just zone in on Clarence. There's nowhere else. I mean, the others are good. You could focus on them, but why would you? I mean, goddamn, there's Clarence White playing guitar. And it's so cool. You know, among all the other things, as I get older, the coolest thing for me now is the way a syncopation is. Now, syncopation's cool, and it was always cool, and I always liked it, and I always endeavored to do that, and it's cool. But when other people do it, besides Clarence, it seems stiff. It's like, oh gosh, here comes this thing I've practiced. Here it comes, and they do it, and it seems like 9 times out of 10 it's stiff or jilted somehow and doesn't lay right. Clarence did it, just seemed like breathing. It's just normal. That's how I do it. It's no big deal. That's how I hear it, and so I play it that way. And I'm sure he worked at it. Who doesn't? But as you know, the people who invent stuff like that, it's hard to beat them at their own game. Dad got a phone call. I was in a tub taking a bath, and Dad got a phone call. He's on the phone a while. And that's somebody, you know, spreading the word. Don't know if you heard, but Clarence, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they gave him all the info. Dad comes in the bathroom. Well, what? I'm taking a bath. Only been here a couple minutes. It ain't like I've been here all day. What's going on? Well, just got a phone call. Okay. Well, Clarence is dead. What? Yep. I'll tell you more when you get out of the tub. All right. So then get out of the tub and found out and heard about it. It was all quiet around the house. You know that whole story? He's putting in, loading up the car, the van or whatever they had. He and Roland, they just played a job in Palmdale, California, and looked in the rearview mirror, and there's an amplifier still out. So they get out. And they're loading that, and some drunk lady comes around the corner and hits them. Roland and Clarence flew, and Clarence flew the furthest, was hit the hardest. And they go to the hospital. Well, they're out, but they're taken to the hospital, and Roland wakes up. Where's my brother? Oh, he's over here. I think they gave Roland the option. Says, you know, he'll never walk, he'll always be on tubes, but we can keep him alive. I went to bed, you know, at bedtime, which might have been maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock. I don't know. And cried. It was weird. Cried all night till I fell asleep. And I'd only really known him that little bit. I saw him at Indian Springs, and I seen him in Annapolis. I saw him in Philadelphia a little bit. But that's all I really knew. It was strange. It was a weird, I'm sure that's because Dad built him up to be like God.
I don't think people realize when they're just putting a little bit of effort towards relating to a kid, how much it can mean to them for the rest of their life.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, amazing. He was cool to me. I never seen him uncool to anybody, but, you know, I didn't hang with him very often either, and Roland was always nice, too. Most folks were always nice, willing to show you something.
That was David Grier talking about his friendship with Clarence White. You can find out everything you need to know about David at davidgrier.com, and I strongly urge you to go see him live and to pick up his records. Much love to you guys, and I'll see you somewhere down the road.